Hello there. I'm glad you can make it today. We are in the book of Exodus, starting in chapter 1. Now, this being a new book, you might think, okay, it's a totally different story, but really what we've got is this follows up on the book of Genesis, which has just ended. And in that, at the end of Genesis, we find that the Israelites, meaning the family of Jacob, have all ended up in Egypt thanks to Joseph being there and being able to save his family from the famine that was threatening the lives of everyone in that part of the world. Now, the Israelites were given the land of Goshen within Egypt, and everything was good for them to start with. They had children, and then there were grandchildren, and so on, and eventually the older people died. And the same thing happened with the Pharaoh who had let them stay. And so there may have been a couple of other Pharaohs along, but then finally there was a Pharaoh who came along who did not know Joseph. He did not realize that these Israelites were all related to the person who had saved Egypt from the famine. Well, all he saw was a potential threat because he was thinking, okay, if we go to war with another country, these Israelites who aren't part of us will join up with those guys and fight against us and be sure they take all their land and maybe even some of ours. So he's thinking along those lines. And so he comes up with this plan to get rid of the Israelites. Well, first he starts oppressing them. So they're different people. So we're going to give them the bad jobs, the hard jobs to do. And they start doing that with the Israelites. And that doesn't seem to work because he thinks, okay, we can work them to death. Doesn't work. The number of Israelites actually grows from that. Um, and that sometimes can happen. These people are actually getting stronger. Well, now he's scared of them. And his next plan is to call in the midwives. These are Israelite women who help the other Israelite women have their babies when it's time for them to have babies. He says to them, okay, if they have a girl, then everything's fine. Take care of the girl. If there's a boy, I want you to kill the boy. Well, these women follow God. They're not about to do what he said. And they come up with something, and some people think they were lying. Some people think they're telling the truth. But I'm going to tell you what happened. They would not kill the boy babies. And eventually, Pharaoh called them back in and said, okay, what's happening? You're not killing the boy babies. And they said, well, the Israelite women are not like the Egyptian women. They are sturdy and tough, and they have their babies before we can even get there. And some people go, okay, they're lying about this. Well, I think they're actually telling the truth because people who work hard and exercise and um, are vigorous physically, um, they would be able to have their babies more quickly and be able to recover more quickly. And I think it was just that they weren't telling the whole truth, that even if they got there, they weren't going to kill the babies. So I guess Pharaoh accepts that, but then he comes up with a plan that goes around the midwives completely and says, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have our people go out and their girl babies, we'll leave them alone. If they're boys, we're going to throw them into the river. Well, this is the Nile River, dangerous waters. It provides the life to Egypt because of the water, but it's also got a lot of crocodiles, which could eat people. It's also got hippos, which don't eat people, but will attack people when they see them. So throwing a baby out there, if they don't drown, something else is going to hurt them. So he thinks this is a good plan, but the Israelites are coming up with other things to get around it. And in the case of one baby named Moses, um, here's what happens. His mother takes papyrus, which is a plant that's used for making paper, and she makes a basket out of it, then takes tar and pitch and puts it inside and out of the basket. and that keeps the water out of it. So essentially, she's made a little boat, kind of like what Noah did when he built the ark. Of course, this is small for a baby. Puts Moses into the basket and then puts him in part of the river where there are reeds growing around them. So it's not likely that crocodile's going to come right up in there. But he also puts, or she also puts Miriam, who is Moses' older sister, out there to kind of watch things and be sure everything's okay. And then she goes back with what she has to do. Apparently, she was able to hide him for 3 months, but then at this point, okay, can't do that any longer. So everything seems okay right now, but Pharaoh's daughter comes down to bathe in the river. And she's got other people with her because, of course, she has to be kept safe from any of the animals that are in there. And she hears a baby crying, sends one of her slave girls out to investigate. She comes back with a basket, and they quickly figure out, oh, this is a Hebrew baby boy. And Pharaoh's daughter just kind of falls in love with Moses, and she decides to keep him. Well, Miriam goes up and talks to her and says, oh, would you like me to find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? And Pharaoh's daughter says, okay, yes, that's a good idea. So Pharaoh's daughter knows this is a Hebrew baby, but she never puts together that the lady Miriam brings back is Moses' mother. She's happy to have this child, and Moses is raised in the Egyptian royal family. And that's kind of funny in some sense because her daddy was wanting to kill all of the Israelite boys, and here's one living in his own house. Well, time passes. Moses grows up as an Egyptian and dresses that way, and he's taught the things that they are taught, but he still loves his own people, the Israelites. Now, there's no doubt that his own mother told him about the Israelites as she was helping to raise him. And he gets to be the age of 40, and he sees this Egyptian just treating some Israelites terribly, or at least one guy. And Moses looks around. Okay, he doesn't see anybody. He kills the Egyptian and he buries him in the sand. And you think, well, was it legal for him to do that? Well, he's part of the royal family, so yes, he can do that. And because he identified with his own people, he wasn't going to allow this to happen. He had the power to do something about it, and he did it. Well, the next day he saw a couple of the Israelite men fighting, and one's actually picking on the other one. He's in the wrong. And Moses says to him, hey, you're brothers. You shouldn't be doing this. And the one who's the bad Israelite says, oh, what are you going to do? Kill me like you did the Egyptian? Oh, Moses realizes now his secret is out and he knows word's going to get back to Pharaoh, and it does. And is out to kill Moses, but Moses is able to escape and he leaves the country. He ends up going to Midian, and when he gets to Midian, he ends up at an oasis. Now, the oasis was an important place all through the desert areas because there you had your water. And if you stay there, people would come along here and there. We don't know what Moses had planned at the time. And he may have been kind of lost in the sense that he didn't know what he was going to do next. But he saw these women come up. Turns out that they were 7 daughters of a priest of Midian, and this guy went by several names. One was Jethro, and there was Ruel, was another name for him. And they came in with their sheep to water the sheep. And of course, the oasis being there, well, there was being a well, they would draw the water, and there were troughs for the sheep to drink from. Well, some shepherds came up with their sheep and they drove off the women so that their sheep could drink first. And Moses didn't take kindly to that. Now, remember, he's a tough guy. He's shown that he could at least kill an Egyptian. And so I'm thinking he's in good shape. He drives off the shepherds. They get out of there. Then he allows the women to come back in and he helps them and they water their sheep and they head back home. Moses is still at the well and their dad asked him, "Well, how'd you get back so quickly?" And they said, "Oh, we were down there watering our sheep, and these shepherds were trying to drive us off, but this Egyptian came along, and he drove them away and helped water the sheep, and um, so we're back." And their dad goes, "Wait, you didn't invite him back to eat?" Now, that's an important statement because we don't think much of it. But if somebody did something for you like that, then you were supposed to show gratitude. And their dad tells them, "You go back and get him and bring him here." Well, he must have really liked Moses because he takes Moses into the family and marries him to one of his daughters. And that's where Moses lives for the next 40 years. Okay, it sounds like we're stopping in the middle of the story, and that is true because something big is going to happen. But what I want you to see in this is that God has a plan, and so far it's gone 40 years from when Moses was born till he gets to this point, and more time is going to go by. The thing we learn from this is that there are things that happen day to day, and we might not think much of it, but God could have a plan for you that's specific, or He might have one that He's just waiting for certain things to fall into place. So we shouldn't think, oh, well, I can't do something for God, or God's forgotten about me. Moses could have thought that, and he would have been wrong. Okay, I'm going to show you my tie. It doesn't relate a whole lot, but I picked this one of Goofy because there he is looking at a map and he's traveling and camping, and that's pretty much what Moses is doing up until he gets to the well, and Ruel invites him in and brings him into his family. With that, I'm going to let you go. Hope you're back next time as we talk more about Moses. See you then. Bye.